Nerdcast assemble!
Stay dandy, baby.
Gundam Build Divers just got its very best episode. Not only was it action-packed and emotional, but I honestly think that this single episode itself was better than the entirety of the last season of the entire show. This episode right here was just tops. It was an epic three-way battle with the Build Divers, Alice and his team, and of course Masaki, who is piloting the Seltsam Gundam, which has essentially gone out of freaking control and is transformed into an absolute monstrosity, which wrecks everything in its path. We also finally got to see Kuwadorn, the legendary beast, go into battle, and that might be one of the most emotional parts of this entire episode. But essentially this one right here was all about Hiroto and his team desperately trying to save Masaki. And it basically just de-evolved into a massive fight, which, you know, for me, who's a big action junkie, I really loved it. Everybody really got to shine in this episode, and there were some surprising character moments, to say the least. But what I really loved about this is that it was a three-way battle, which doesn't happen too often in Gundam. A lot of the times, there's just the good guys and the bad guys. Here, there was just all of these different forces going at one another, and they all had different ideas on how they actually wanted to handle all of this. But the beauty of this episode, of course, came from the fact that pretty much every single character got to shine in their own way. Of course, Hiroto was awesome because we got to see more brand new forms of the Gundam that he's been using, the core Gundam, with lots of cool brand new upgrades, one of which basically is Gurren Lagann because it has a massive freaking drill on its hand. It's really cool. Mei was fantastic in this episode, definitely having more of an emotional battle with Masaki and Alice as well as Kuwadorn throughout most of the episode. They even delved a little bit more into Parvis and his backstory, showing that in the past when he lost his will to walk, it was his brother who brought him to the world of GBN and completely changed his entire perspective. And freaking Kazumi. Kazumi might be the most surprising character because he's definitely, I think, matured the most out of every single character in the show, and it really shows in how he actually works with everyone, and even just the evolution of his Gundam itself, which has a really cool transformation in this episode. The Aegis Knight Gundam goes into this mode which is known as King Mode, which essentially gives him a glorious golden crown and a massive sword, which is incredibly destructive, even going toe-to-toe with the freaking Seltsam itself. It was awesome. So let's talk about that Seltsam for a second. Was anybody getting G Gundam vibes from this episode? Kind of reminded me of the Devil Gundam, which was like a bio-organic Gundam, which essentially was like sentient and alive. That's kind of what was going on with the Seltsam. So Masaki is basically like just going insane at this point, and that's sort of like manipulating his Seltsam to go through these crazy transformations where the arms itself start to transform and turn into these like giant tentacles and tendrils, basically turning it into a bio-organic mecha, and it made it really cool, and it led to some amazing striking imagery in this episode, some images that I'm never going to forget from this show. That shot of him with the fire behind him as he was in silhouette, that was just plain epic and metal. I loved that scene so much. And then, of course, there's Alice and his cronies. He's got these two brand new Gundam which are joining him, which are not only really cool looking, but they actually utilize the power of Trans Am. Now, we've already seen some hints to that in the previous episodes, but not only can they use that using the Trans Am, which makes them incredibly fast, turning them blood red, but even frickin' Parvis can do that as well. That was such a solid moment for his character. Everything just worked so well in this episode, but I think the biggest scene, without a shadow of a doubt, comes towards the end, when Masaki is starting to go completely more insane. He's just going nuts, destroying everything, and then Kuwadorn just shows up like a glorious freaking god. And this is when he decides to straight up just try and kill Masaki, realizing that he is suffering and he wants everything to end. And Kuwadorn, being the sort of like robotic legendary beast that he is, has no problem in obliging him in this, deciding that he's just going to blast his ass with this really cool technique, which essentially is just a Kamehameha blast from Dragon Ball Z. And he tries to hit him with this a number of times, and he's basically getting ready to finish him off, but everyone manages to stop him. I almost thought that Mei was going to die in this episode. She ends up getting hit by this blast. Luckily, she and her mobile suit doll managed to jump out of her mobile suit right before this actually happens. And then there was this like really tense moment where it looks like he was actually going to try and finish him off. And I really thought maybe the series is going to go in the darkest direction possible. Maybe they are actually going to follow through with something that's going to be outright disturbing. And it almost looked like that was going to happen at first when Quadorn was going to potentially finish off Masaki. But no, he actually fires upon Alice and his group, and they eventually make their big retreat, leaving the Seltsam to slowly start to break down, disappear a little bit, and suddenly that leaves Masaki, who at first I thought actually died in this episode, but his body manages to sort of just disappear, and in the real world, he finally wakes up, seeing his sister yet again, and it's a triumphant moment for the character. The Build Divers have come together, they've gotten over all of their weaknesses and their character weaknesses, and they've overcome a massive obstacle. They've saved someone, and now they're getting ready to take on Alice and his entire group, who seems to have actually been affected by some of these events. You know that he's like an AI, an artificial intelligence that sort of does things in a very robotic manner, but he looks like he is affected by the events in this episode, as if he's actually thinking, becoming a little more sentient with every single thing that he actually witnesses. There could be a point to save Alice as well. I'm not sure if that's actually going to happen, but it would be remarkably interesting. And for a show that's all about the fact that there are AI that can be born in a world and actually have human feelings and emotion, that could potentially happen in this show. Again, adding a layer of depth to a show about building model kits and fighting them that I did not expect or even see coming. So, what's the rundown on this episode of Gundam Build Divers Re-Rise? Without a shadow of a doubt, one of the best episodes of the entire series. Especially if you just wanted some really good mobile suit action, this one really delivered on all those fronts, and everyone got to do something really awesome. I think I'm most impressed by Kazumi and his King mode on his Aegis Knight Gundam. I just really loved the look of that. He clearly took a lot of inspiration from Captain Zeon, his big hero, which I thought was really cool. But again, it's his personality combined with that brand new Gundam, which really made it very exciting. And like I said, they managed to give everybody this emotional depth within this episode, which I didn't expect from anything like this at all. The Seltsam in this episode, though, man, some of the coolest imagery that I've seen from the show. I mean, it was already a cool-looking mobile suit before, but transform it into a giant bioorganic monster and it just becomes 10 times more badass. I really loved all of that. And Quadorn looked really cool with all of the gunpla wings on its body as it was flying through. At first, I was really lukewarm on the concept of Quadorn, but seeing it in this episode was really great. Even a legendary beast can have human emotions and be affected by the Build Divers. That's what's really remarkable about them. They seem to be affecting all of these people in a really different way. And as for Masaki, I'm really curious if we're actually going to see him return anymore in the series. You know, I mean, clearly he's been in this state for a very long period of time, so he's probably very weak, but I'd love to see him actually join the Build Divers and help them in their big final battle. I think it would be not only very karmic, but I just think it would be really cool to see him fighting alongside them with his more traditional looking Gundam. I mean, I think that one looks cool. I think the Seltsam looks a lot cooler, but still, it'd be really great to see him join his brand new friends, as well as sort of rectifying all of the things that he's done in this world and sort of making up for it and saving all of these people on Eldora. So I'm really pumped to see where the actual finale of the show is going to be headed at this point. And if it was, half as good as this episode, I think it's going to be really solid. So I loved this episode. I thought it was, like I said, I think the best episode of the entire series of Re-Rise. So I'm going to give this one a 5 out of 5. I truly loved this one as a hardcore Gundam fan. I'd love to get your thoughts about it, however. Did any of you guys watch this episode of Gundam Build Divers Re-Rise? What did you think about the big three-way battle between the Build Divers, the Seltsam, and Alice? And what do you hope to see from the big finale of the series? Let's talk about that and this episode in the comment section below. So thank you guys so much for watching this review. Please subscribe to my channel for more videos just like this one. I'm reviewing a ton of anime right now, so please make sure to check that out. If you liked this video, hit the like button. It's super easy to do, and it helps out these videos tremendously. And I would love to thank all of my patrons who are checking out my Patreon page. You guys have been making some awesome donations, as well as giving me some great feedback on all of my videos, and I can't thank you for that enough. I would also love to add your name to this list of amazing people if you make a donation. These guys are awesome. And remember, if you do make a donation through my Patreon, I'll review an anime series of your choice. So there it is, my friends. I'll see you all next time. And as always, stay down there, baby.